SSSniperwolf attacks women online who make her feel jealous.
She also attacks them in person when they're just minding their own business.
Sniperwolf calls herself a psychopath.
She has homicidal fantasies.
Fantasies of me like beating the shit out of them or like killing them and they'll just like feel so good. It gets me going.
Other celebrities who've been penned in with her at an event have seen her suddenly
snap into a violent rage with no warning.
There's a big, crazy story involving Sniperwolf that you probably haven't heard about.
Come beneath the wigs and the musty scalp into the mind of a malignant narcissist and learn what's real and what's fake in the spiraling tower of projection built by the world's favorite greasy-haired YouTuber. Tonight's the night.
Whoa! Your favorite greasy hair YouTuber. She got some greasy hair. Oh no! Ew! Mommy said you have to take a shower. I think I've went a month without showering before. That was really cool. I said I don't take a shower. Now that I think about it, I haven't showered in what seems to be like weeks. Are you serious? I would rather not shower for 3 months. Oh no, she did not. Unless you don't shower and you smell. I cannot wash my own hair. You know, if you're not gonna wash your hair, just cut the whole thing off. All your nasty, crusty, dandruff, flaky, greasy hair particles. Some nasty, greasy hair YouTuber. This just looks like a big old bald spot. Strands of hair struggling to cover that bald spot. You know, I could almost see your brain if there was one. Oh, nasty. Why am I still getting hate?
At a major gaming event, Sniperwolf assaulted a woman who wasn't even looking in her direction.
Who told you?
If you've been around esports or YouTube drama for a while, you might remember this event because this was a big breakout moment for Ninja.
This is a Fortnite OG Tyler Blevins dyes his hair blue Epic Games and Fortnite Blevins moment.
Who's this guy with the hair? What's that? What's the deal there?
Also joining us today, Sniperwolf.
And Sniperwolf embarrassed herself in more ways than one. Billed as the pro gamer in a pro-amateur duo, Sniperwolf was outplayed by everyone on the stage that day, including the amateur playing with a bucket on his head. All said and done, her team finished tied for dead last with 0 points. She got eliminated early in all 3 rounds of the tournament. In fact, she turned in such a poor performance that she barely appears on screen at all in the entire 3.5-hour broadcast. Blink and you would miss her.
Sniperwolf, hello. She was like playing in the competition, but she was the very first person to die. I didn't see this, but people said that she died within like a few seconds.
What many who were there did witness off camera was Sniperwolf getting involved in altercations. The first of which was a screaming match with her partner, Evan.
He can't play for her live.
When I don't get my way, I scream, and I scream really loud.
Sniperwolf and the man who now claims to have been playing for her at home were observed to be furious with each other immediately after her last place finish.
She's dead. Killing her.
For doing so badly in Fortnite.
Yeah, I think that's why it was. He was probably coaching her to like be good at that. And he left.
I hate being alone. I don't like going anywhere without Sausage or my mom or somebody I know. I have to be with one of them, preferably Sausage.
One thing we forget about narcissistic folks is they don't like abandonment.
I have really bad separation anxiety.
Use their abandonment issues to control them.
You gotta keep the kitty on edge.
Pretend to break up with her.
You gotta do a lot of things, you know?
You're the puppet master now.
He makes me inhale his poop. Who's the real psychopath here, the dude or the girl?
And unfortunately, this was not her only skirmish of the evening.
Everybody knows when you lose in an argument, all you gotta do is start screaming. I'm one of those lovely people that as soon as they get mad, they take out all their frustration. When I get mad, it's real quick. When I get mad, I get really mad.
After failing to assault other internet celebrities within the game, she made up for it in real life. Just like she always knew that she would.
I never had time to practice or go to events and compete, and not to mention I am a very bad sport. If I lose, I'll go apeshit or cry or attack people. I'll literally attack people. I get really, really competitive.
They thrive on winning. In fact, I'm not sure there is anything more important to a narcissist than winning. So when they fail at something, you need to brace yourself because you are likely going to see some behaviors you never dreamed you would see exhibited by a full-grown adult.
She played poorly and then attacked people.
Narcissistic rage is an explosive combination of hostility and anger that comes about when a narcissist has their sense of self threatened. Essentially, the narcissist is having to face their own inferiority, which is something they are not able to do. They cannot accept the fact that they are not perfect. The narcissist becomes aggressive in order to distract themselves, eliminate the source of the shame, or to blame the painful feelings on someone else.
Asshole killed me.
Narcissistic people are very reactive.
How could you?
When they're frustrated, when they're disappointed. Why? Because it means they're not perfect. It means they're not the grandiose ideal that they've created for themselves to protect themselves from that cauldron of shame that's always bubbling up.
I threw my headset off and then I went to go cry in the bathroom for a little bit. And then I had to come back on stream and pretend like I was okay. Okay, I kind of overreacted.
Out of the blue, from the side hatch, basically, launches Sniperwolf and has to be restrained.
You want to know a recap of what happened?
Sure.
Okay, so basically, they were like in a circle, and I walked in the bathroom, and then when I was walking back, I saw them, and they're like, "Hey, Azzy," and then I was like, "Sniper's there," and I'm like, "Oh, you know what? Just be nice." They just walk over, and then I go in there, and I got really awkward, so I started like just telling an embarrassing story of myself, and she just like is looking at me. She's silent, and she's like angry, and then she like lunges at me, and I don't remember like exact details because it was just fucking terrifying. Got in between and like pulled her off me, and then they took her back into the room, and then I was out there, and they were like, "What the was that?" It was just like, it was so. Oh yeah, she was like, oh yeah, she screaming at me. She's like, a bunch of words I can't actually say on YouTube, but the one sentence I can say is she goes, "You fake your gameplay," and then charges towards me, swinging.
This is an Azzyland only channel from now on. Sniperwolf is no longer my best friend. Azzyland is my best friend.
Leah had to be physically pulled off of Azra and was dragged away screaming and clawing.
Yes, this was me, the child with the anger issues, who would never back down from a fight. And I scream really loud. You know that high-pitched scream that girls do? I'm not even gonna do it for you guys, just to spare you headphone users. I hate you.
When a narcissist says something hurtful, or they recount how they said something hurtful in the past, saying it or as they're remembering that they said it and talking about it, you see again this sense of relief on their face, kind of this subtle smile sometimes. Like even just the memory of it brings a little bit of joy.
I hate you.
But everybody heard about it. Everybody was like coming up to me all night saying like,
"Wow, you have anger issues." Why do you scream so much, especially when you can't win a level in a game? Do you have anger issues? Maybe I do have anger issues. Do you have a problem with that? Do you? I can't help my anger. Whenever I get mad at a game, I get really mad and I can't help it.
Maybe they can't help it. I'm telling you, obviously, they can. And if they couldn't, Mel, they'd never be as successful as they are. Or they'd be screaming in shareholder meetings. They'd be screaming at everyone. Sometimes they do, but they tend to scream at what they consider low-value targets.
That is disgusting.
The people who saw it never made a video about this, probably to like preserve their reputation as drama-free, and because that's not the kind of content that they normally make.
Who told you? Now I need to know.
When people would find out about it secondhand, they would inquire about it, and Azzy would ask them, "Please don't make a video about this."
Probably shouldn't mention it.
Man. She did not want the drama.
I mean, I don't want to comment on this.
But in those, sort of upper social circles, it's been known for years that there is a prominent creator who has a screw loose in their head.
I mean, there was this one bitch who talked so much on me online. And then she came up to me, smiled, and tried to hug me. I'm like, you call me stupid and ugly, we throwing hands.
And women especially should stay away from her.
The rest of the night, everybody made sure like she was on the opposite side of the room as me.
She gonna make me commit a crime. Bro, you gonna make me do something violent. These hands are rated E for everyone. I would've popped them right then and there. And as soon as you put your guard down, it's just like...
In the last episode of Nerdline, we saw how Sniperwolf was copying elements from Azzyland that had already proven to be popular.
A piece of wood used to mix paint for 50 years.
Used to mix paint for 50 years.
Imagine how cool this would be, like people like were a little more creative though, and they were like, pink, blue, yellow, purple.
I mean, it would have been cooler if y'all used like brighter colors or something.
It's the same kind of content. She's just a liar, though. She's stealing everything and has been for a very long time.
The easiest examples to find, by simply looking at the dates and comparing them, are the hundreds of thumbnails and titles that Sniperwolf used after Azzyland.
It is astounding to see how many videos Sniperwolf has legitimately either titled the same exact way as Azzyland, or has just taken the same exact picture that Azzyland has used in her thumbnail.
But it also included some weird things, like potentially her Toronto accent, and the exact dress that she wore for a house tour.
Why would she rip this off? Why would she steal this thing? It's a house tour or the red dress. Who cares? What are the chances, though? Honestly, it seems so intentional. She seems like she's gaslighting her audience into hating Azzyland.
Bro, what? They have the same mirror? They both did a house tour in the same outfit? This looks like the same exact dress, dude.
Narcissists copy. Blatant copying, such as wearing the same clothes that you might wear, copying your work, copying your ideas.
She literally copied the house tour as he did, and even wore the same outfit during the house tour, and even pointed out the same things in the house tour that Azzy did. When I say same things, weird things that you wouldn't normally point out in a house tour.
Like this really weird example where AzzyLand is talking about plants in her home, basically saying that, you know, she doesn't really take care of them. They end up being killed and dying. But then Sniperwolf goes on to say that they're luscious, well taken care of plants.
More plants that I'm killing.
A luscious, well taken care of plant.
And try to make it better, almost like out of spite.
It's the entitled person doesn't just feel special. They have to be more special than you.
Before they really knew each other, they both cosplayed as D.Va from Overwatch. And you can see Azzyland got tagged in a post saying that, oh, Sniperwolf did the same cosplay and she's very complimentary and nice. And Sniperwolf, being, you know, the piece of shit she is, starts comparing herself and going in on Azzyland's appearance.
If I take those personality traits and put them into me, I can become a better person, which would make me a better version of them because I'm different from them. That's just how my mind works, y'all.
It's just very strange.
She like stole her accent and shit too,
I know,
the way she talks.
The Toronto way
fucking
talking,
weirdo.
yeah.
True weirdo shit.
Sniperwolf even stole the way Azzy speaks. It's weird, dude.
It's getting a little weird in there. It's getting a little strange.
It's so weird.
Very odd indeed.
Which is strange and, you know, well, who cares? Sniperwolf does.
That whole narrative of Azzyland copying Sniperwolf stems from Sniperwolf herself.
This whole time, Sniperwolf has been running a nonstop smear campaign against Azzyland, confoundingly trying to convince fans that Azzy has been stealing from her.
Much larger creator doing something extremely wrong and then claim that she's not copying, and also that the inverse is happening.
That's pretty much a synopsis of everything new that's come out. Sniperwolf thinks Azzy copies her, Azzy thinks Sniperwolf copies her, and NerdCity proves that Sniperwolf copies Azzy. But we'll get into it because it's pretty interesting. And
it actually doesn't really matter because it's not their photos and it's not really their video content anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Well, it does matter, Jack. In fact, it does matter.
It's just the worst kind of like egg-sucking, parasitic thief.
Sniperwolf has quite literally stolen every aspect of her career.
I have not been this mad about someone in so long, and I'm so happy NerdCity put out this huge thing. He came out of retirement for this shit.
I look really pissed.
Imagine having someone like Sniperwolf harassing you, coming at you every chance you get, sending her fans after you, imitating your voice, copying your thumbnails, copying your videos. How crazy that is. And Sniperwolf is acting like the one who's being copied.
It's driving me crazy!
Hearing Azzy tell her side of the story for the first time left a lot of people wondering, like, why would anyone copy the content and clothes and speech pattern from someone who they don't even like?
Plagiarism and hypocrisy have never been uncommon on YouTube. However, the skinwalking jumped out as a bit strange. And you might even say it was a bit spooky.
You've got to be kidding.
A few people in the comments were not surprised. They mentioned that all of those behaviors are characteristics of NPD.
Especially how I talk is very often based off of other people. Everything that I do, every way that I act, is through this purpose of making people impressed with me, making people think I'm cool, making people admire me and stuff like that.
So a lot of us take in the identity of the people that we admire or or envious of or jealous of.
Hold your horses on that one. You're telling me that the world's most self-obsessed people would actually be obsessed with somebody else? Oh, sure. Well, that explains it. Okay, moving on. No, obviously, some of that doesn't sound right. Let's bring it back to the Greek roots. Narcissus in mythology. This is where the name come from. Narcissus, narcissistic. This is the god who fell in love with his own reflection. He wasn't staring into the neighbor's living room and falling in love with him. The disorder is named after the god of vanity, not the god of unoriginality.
It's like when Rapunzel went to the city and then she saw that painting of the princess and she was like, oh, that's me! No, it's a narcissistic disorder, honey.
So, what the hell are they talking about, chat? And why did Nerd press like and tell them they were right? Narcs always tell on themselves. Look, the etymology of the word narcissism has nothing to do with narcotics agents or snitching. Let's take a closer look at NPD and then we'll circle back and remind Nerd that he's a moron and he shouldn't be telling anybody that they're right. He doesn't know.
I don't know, I'd be checking out my hair in the reflection in the pond.
We see a grandiose sense of self-importance. We see someone who has a lot of fantasies about wealth and power. They believe they are special or unique. They require excessive admiration from others. We see a sense of entitlement, a tendency to exploit other people interpersonally, a lack of empathy. We see an envy for other people and a belief that other people envy them. And we also see arrogance. Leah has been able to get away with doing whatever she feels like. Leah appears to have grandiosity, arrogance, and a sense of entitlement. Just a reminder, I'm not diagnosing anybody in this video.
Now seems like a good time to explain the way that I'm using clips in this video. You can tell by the title of the video usually whether it's referring to Sniperwolf directly or not. Well, with the exception of only that clip, all of the mental health videos are not referring to Sniperwolf. And it is important to say that because there are relevant ethical constraints against speculating about public figures when it comes to licensed psychologists and psychiatrists, which is something I'm going to talk to PsychIRL about a little bit later in this video. As this video goes on, you're going to see that there are a number of different ways that people look at narcissism, and there definitely isn't a consensus amongst experts, not on how to describe it, whether you even should diagnose it, or what it even is.
A narcissist is not what you think, is not a person who thinks so highly of themselves.
They can be chameleons or shapeshifters.
It's like shape-shifting, you know, in science fiction movies.
As it tends to be with abstract concepts, and especially in an ever-evolving field like psychology, there are going to be different opinions that some people might find more or less true in their experience, and that can be contradicted or confirmed by further scientific research and literature. Pathological narcissism is often spoken about these days as one of 3 sets of personality traits referred to as the dark triad. See the overlap in the little Venn diagram? That's messy. And when the goal is to effectively treat a patient, messy is bad.
What I loved about this research is that the one pillar that is universal in all narcissism is entitlement, where narcissism, Machiavellianism, or the willingness to exploit others, psychopathy, and sadism all come together.
At the moment, as strange as this sounds, psychologists feel like evil personality types have not been properly studied.
Pathological narcissism is different than narcissistic personality disorder.
And on top of that, complicating it further, narcissism is yet another concept being pulled into spaghetti by the dual black holes of category versus continuum debates.
We have to view also narcissism on a spectrum, Mel.
Meaning that any behavior could be expressing something within a range of healthy to harmful amounts of narcissistic thinking.
It's not an either or. It's not that you're narcissistic or you're not.
But when it comes to narcissistic personality disorder, a person either fits the diagnostic criteria or they don't. And it can be diagnosed as a comorbidity of other mental disorders. In other words, you could be diagnosed as a narcissist and as a psychopath.
But some believe that when NPD appears in tandem with ASPD, they'll combine like Goku and Vegeta in a fusion move to become a brand new syndrome called Malignant Narcissism. This is my favorite.
Alternatively, some prefer to view narcissism as one of 4 subtypes of psychopathy and would just delete NPD completely.
Delete!
This has been a big debate. Some experts think that diagnosing NPD on its own is a waste of time. and that more research on it is a waste of resources.
In fact, NPD was almost deleted from the DSM in the last update. Narcissists didn't take that news very well. After all, they have the most special brains. I won't be ignored, DSM-5. In the end, NPD survived this attempt and it hopped from the DSM-4 to the DSM-5 like nothing happened.
We back up in the spot, claiming never been gone.
Now, DSM-5, DSM-4, what are these? Is this some kind of Spanish sports channel that you flip past? No. DSM-5 is the holy book for the priesthood of psychology.
Not really, though. DSM is not the be-all, end-all of psychology, although it is relied upon by doctors and insurance companies and psychologists to code a diagnosis and to determine whether or not care is covered by a customer's policy or not.
According to many experts, NPD on its own shouldn't command so much attention, and it doesn't need to be a thing. Which is weird because culturally NPD is so hot right now. Social media has been surfacing and rewarding narcissistic behavior.
Social media has brought the conceit and the vanity up to a level that's unparalleled in human history.
And currently it says a lot about our society. Search for a few trendy terms like narcissistic supply, and you will find a whole cottage industry has arisen of people who do nothing but explain the mind of a narcissist.
Some of them I like. Many of them have good videos.
Many of these channels are not run by licensed mental health professionals. In fact, they're made by diagnosed narcissists who are more than happy to talk about themselves forever to anyone who will listen.
So we will think that narcissists like myself only look in the mirror because we are admiring ourselves, but this is not necessarily true. Usually it's because we're seeing flaws in ourselves that we have to rectify immediately. It's not so much that we think we look perfect, it's that we have to look perfect. Because if we don't look perfect, we look the worst, and we feel like everyone's going to judge us and hate us.
Other channels are run by admittedly banged up people who also aren't licensed therapists either, but can speak from experience.
Today's topic is one that I know so many of us have had to deal with and come to terms with the damage that it has caused to our lives.
I am a globally renowned expert in how to negotiate with narcissists.
There seems to be a large number of experts. A lot of these content creators believe that they're experts, again, in narcissism.
Because everybody's saying we're in a pandemic of narcissism.
You can tell from the numbers they get and the replies that many people find this supportive and educational and helpful, like life-saving even.
It's about support. Individuals who've been abused by someone who is or is not a narcissist sometimes go to these channels, and what they see on the channels, what they see in the videos, it resonates with them. And that's powerful. They are onto something here.
The underground of pop psychology discussing narcissism is in the middle of a renaissance on YouTube and Reddit and Quora and self-publishing platforms everywhere.
It's kind of formed into its own little industry.
The online space of narcissism is just booming.
Some of these channels that are run by the more motivational type figures use this informal expertise they have on the subject in a way that no mental health professional would ever do.
Write down on loose leaf paper, I'm a hoe, and stick that.
Maybe not entirely for self-defense, but for going on offense.
I'm just showing you how to create mental anguish in somebody with narcissistic personality disorder. What you do with this information is on you.
This is unlicensed street knowledge, my friends, served up fast and hot by TikToks and YouTube Shorts.
Some of the more extreme claims that I've seen would be that the knowledge of some of these content creators exceeds any PhD. So, as somebody who has a PhD, I'm a little disappointed to hear that.
And I spoke to a group of therapists this Sunday just gone, and I was like, you know, most of your clients are getting their information about narcissism from people on YouTube like me. They're not getting it from the published research. They're not getting it from peer. They're not getting it from the books.
I use scholarly articles, as I mentioned, and some of these channels do too. I actually saw a number of videos where some of the same articles that I've used were used in the video. Unfortunately, most of the time, the sources aren't clear. It's personal experience. Sometimes the source is another narcissism channel.
Dr. Todd Grande can come across a little bit, I don't know, grumpy, but he does operate a very good channel for comprehensive explanations of many different concepts in psychology, including narcissism. Although often focused on scientific accuracy, he does cover emerging topics and trends outside of the DSM and offers his own personal opinions on things. Such as, he also doesn't think too highly of SSSniperwolf.
Content creators like Leah don't make any meaningful contribution to society. She does not appear to have any discernible traditional talent.
Based. His is one of several well-informed channels that do feature licensed professionals, such as Surviving Narcissism with Dr. Les Carter, and those featuring Dr. Ramani Durvasula.
I'm a licensed clinical psychologist. I'm a professor of psychology.
You are the world's leading expert. You are now piloting all of this academic research around narcissism. What is narcissism? The word is thrown around all over the place.
So narcissism is a personality style. I think it's actually really important for us to break out of this conversation of it as a disorder. Variable empathy, entitlement, grandiosity, arrogance, selfishness, the need for validation and admiration, a need for control, a motivation by power, dominance. Again, that need for control. They envy other people, or they think other people envy them. They very much often live in fantasy worlds. They cannot tolerate frustration or disappointment, and under those conditions, they often explode in these big rages.
Dr. Ramani is a face that you'll see all over public conversation around narcissism these days. Her personal view is that NPD is an underdiagnosed epidemic, and one that's having an impact on everybody who uses social media. Narcissism is a special area of focus in her work and her practice, and the subject of hundreds of videos she's uploaded that, to be clear, are not meant to refer to any person in particular, including anyone mentioned in this video. She knows damn well so many people will find this content personally relatable. In fact, the more that you learn about the disorder, the more you'll probably think, like I did, well, this sounds like a difficult coworker of mine, or somebody I went to school with, or a house cat I grew up with, or every single politician.
Oh my God, you're describing my dad.
Yeah.
You're describing my son. You're describing the person I'm dating.
Guys, I think there's a lot of people with this problem.
How often are you going to encounter a narcissist?
If I were to spitball a number, 20%, 1 in 5.
That high?
Enough narcissism to cause problems in relationships? Yeah. Do they have NPD? I have no idea.
Generally, in the population at large, you're talking maybe 10 or 15% of the people are going to qualify as narcissists or narcissistic personality disorder.
I also see that there's this tendency to kind of call everyone a narcissist.
Somebody's boyfriend cheats on them. He's a narcissist. Slow down, sister. Like, let's spend a little bit more time. I'm digging in. I'm trying to find the entitlement.
This reckless use of the term makes it so that the term loses all value.
This is everywhere. It's almost as though something seeped into the water supply. It's making everyone sick. And many people say, I don't have someone like this in my life. Oh, yes, you do.
This disorder is just too prevalent in society these days not to be educated.
Understanding this personality style is critical.
This is happening around you, and even if it's not targeting you directly, simply looking on a social media feed and having to see all this, narcissistic people are more likely to get the romantic partners. All the things that we think are success, narcissistic people have. If I wrote a book on narcissism, it becomes a how-to guide for how to achieve in the New World Order.
And today she's here to talk about her brand new book.
It's not easy to keep the Machiavellian, psychopathic, narcissistic sadists under control.
What's the difference between someone who is narcissistic and someone who has a narcissistic personality disorder?
Here's where it gets tricky. A lot of people with these patterns have no impairment. They're getting promotions, they're getting the girl or the guy. Everyone's thinking they're so cool, I want them at my party. They're often very financially successful. So as far as they're concerned, they're killing it.
Why fix what ain't broke? They don't see a problem. They think they're special. They think they're unique.
They're our CEOs.
Yeah.
They're our world leaders.
Right.
They are our celebrities. They are our athletes. They are our music stars.
Now, the reason why it's important to understand how a narcissist navigates life is not to copy their behavior.
Knowing how to contend with, deal with, manage some of these difficult personalities has made a huge difference in, I think, where I've been successful and where I've had difficult times.
Because it's not good for relationships. I have clients, for example, who have been in narcissistic marriages, relationships, 40, 45, 50 years. And they've said to me, nothing like this was being said 20 years ago.
Now, I know some of you might be thinking, Dr. Downvote, how dare you?
You ain't Dr. McGraw?
Edutainment psychiatry with a non-consensual patient is against the rules, specifically the Goldwater rule, which was a response from the APA to an article in Fact magazine in 1964, where over 1,000 psychiatrists expressed their belief that Barry Goldwater was a narcissist and psychopathic and not fit to be an American president.
When somebody tells you he's for Barry Goldwater, you ask him which Barry Goldwater he's for. Is he for the one who said, "I'd drop a low-yield atomic bomb on the Chinese supply lines in North Vietnam"?
And since 1973, the APA has attempted to curtail its members from weighing in on public figures who they haven't personally examined.
Hey, Donna, how's it going?
It's a very, okay, this is kind of embarrassing, but do I call you nerd?
Yeah, nerd.
Or sit or like, you know?
Nerd's fine. Before I would bring in your clip, I think it might even be smart for me to say, like, Donna hasn't seen this video. Donna isn't endorsing the content I'm making, but I just wanted to ask her about this gatekeeping of mental health. I see there being kind of a ethical trap where you're perfectly fine to use textbook terms from psychology or therapy and throw them around sort of cavalierly, sloppily. You can use them as an insult. You can call someone a psycho or a narcissist or something like that. And you're using terms that are serious mental health conditions and have a definition. But then the second that you start to be accurate about it and you try to define, like, okay, is that true? Is he really a psychopath? Is he really sociopathic? Is this really a narcissist? Then all of a sudden it's like, whoa. Are you a licensed therapist? Because you can't diagnose.
Even sometimes a therapist will say, well, you shouldn't say your husband has narcissistic personality disorder unless you've spoken to their therapist, which obviously they haven't.
So the instinct to be responsible in that regard is to bring in someone who is a mental health professional, someone who is a licensed therapist. And then you've got the potential disaster, another trap, a therapist speculating about someone who isn't their patient. So that's a violation of the Goldwater rule, which is that ethical constraint from the APA. They still do it today. Like, psychologists are constantly talking about whether Biden is mentally fit for office, whether Trump's a narcissist, whether Michael Jackson was whatever. You know, like, people will go on the news and be like, I think this person has got that.
Multiple US publications lining up to suggest he's suffering from something called narcissistic personality disorder.
That's prohibited for psychiatrists, and there's an overlap to psychology where it's at least frowned upon. So then you've passed the credential check of, I am a licensed and educated person on this topic, but they're not my patient. So you have to shut up ethically. And then if they are your patient, then you definitely can't talk about it.
As therapists, we have a rule.
And the only way that you could get around that is if it was like, you know, if they gave you permission or if it was a court-ordered evaluation and it became part of the public record. So it protects their expertise and it protects the privacy of the patient. But everybody who's not in that equation is kind of left with less awareness of what these terms mean.
Right. I mean, I do want to start off by saying, though, that, like, this is just my opinion. I am not the authority, nor am I a monolith that gets to decide what people can and can't discuss. With that said, though, I do believe that there is a way that people have to talk about these topics in a very responsible way. And I do feel like a lot of content on the internet and in media as a whole have crossed certain ethical lines.
Mm-hmm.
I would never discuss a specific mental disorder, and even using a public figure as a launching point to discuss that mental disorder. I don't know, it's just something about it feels uncomfortable. And I guess it is maybe because the background of the Goldwater rule. But yeah, I know that's kind of what your video is.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's just something about it for me that feels uncomfortable.
People think if you define the term and then you say, well, this person seems to have these signs, you have to make this genuflection where you go, now I'm not diagnosing, I'm not a mental health professional, right? Even if you've never presented yourself in that way, you know, like there's some pressure to say that. Are you diagnosing? No.
Yeah.
Or maybe I am. Maybe that is the definition of diagnosing. The difference is my diagnosis doesn't come with the authority of the American Psychiatric Association. If I don't have that, then it's like, I'm free to diagnose someone. I diagnose people in conversation all the time.
Right.
If you can't afford to pay to have someone that you vent to about work, you're paying $100 an hour to be like, I've got this coworker who's stealing all my stuff and says that I'm nice, but they also hate me.
And my therapist just flat out said, well, you know, they are on the narcissistic personality disorder spectrum. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
You don't have anyone to talk to about that. Then it's like the next best thing is that you listen to a similar story by a YouTuber who isn't saying they're a therapist, but who's explaining the useful concept. You can relate to it. You get support. You start to realize like, oh, okay, this is not my fault. I don't need to actually analyze their projection on me and then change that about myself. They're actually nuts, so I should just forget about it and do the best I can for myself. Like, I think that that's useful.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like, with that, though, like, I don't believe that talking about mental health issues in relation to public figures is completely off the table. I think it's completely ethical for one to talk about it if it hits, like, certain criteria. And again, this is totally my opinion. You can go on the internet and you can find different influencers and personalities doing a full breakdown of a certain person. But for me, in my opinion, what's ethical is if the public figure divulges actual personal mental health information to the public. I think that's free to talk about it because they themselves are the ones that actually, put that in public. Or there is a news story that exposes the public figure to doing, I don't know, X, Y, Z. Or if you want to talk about the mental health disorder or mental health issue in general.
I'm following the story into the mental health issue. I'm seeing a behavior that doesn't make sense to people, didn't make sense to me. I hadn't seen a whole lot of examples of anybody acting like this. I was left sort of scrambling for a mental model to understand why someone would be doing this. In the comments underneath the video, a number of people called it out. They spotted the copycat thing is NPD, the projection is NPD. I had to look into that because I had never associated that with narcissism.
I think it is fair because she has said, I lack empathy, almost speculated on her having whatever personality disorder.
You know who else has no empathy? Psychopaths. I'm narcissistic and self-absorbed.
So if you approach it that way and investigate, do these comments have validity? Does what she's saying have validity as well?
When I searched for, do narcissists copy people? This gigantic, it was like knocking a wall down and finding this entire world of content based around narcissists.
This channel is devoted to narcissistic abuse awareness and recovery.
People who are telling personal anecdotes about, like a teammate, a parent, a sibling, a best friend.
If you've grown up in a narcissistic family or have been around some narcissistic people or friends, you'll often feel like nothing you say has value. Your life is not that interesting. You might feel like you don't have value. And I know because it happened to me.
People who don't even pretend to be licensed therapists, who are just telling stories.
I've had all these things, happen. And it's just funny to me.
They're still trying to figure out how this person who was trusted in their life could have been undermining them the whole time. And so they can talk about it for quite a while.
In my particular case, when I married into the family, there was particular narcissists who were blatantly obvious about the mimicking. I would have a conversation with them, and then later on in that same evening, I would hear them in a conversation within ear's distance using the same words.
They find a big audience with that because I think the problem is so widespread. There's tons, it's very popular.
Well, I do want to go back to your first question of who is qualified to talk about this, and then you bringing up all the content that you saw of different types of people actually talking about narcissism. I think that's actually very helpful. If you are someone who has the mental disorder yourself, or if you are a family member of someone who has narcissism, I think it's very beneficial for all these voices to be heard, because narcissistic personality disorder, as you might have read from the research, is one of those disorders where it is very hard to get them into therapy or into a lab to study because they think that nothing is wrong with them.
They're less likely to go to therapy, and when they start going to therapy, they're 60% more likely to drop out of therapy.
But I guess thousands or hundreds of people have have noticed these same patterns, and people are coming together and being like, oh yeah, I know a narcissist too, and like he does mirroring, and even though it's not in the DSM, people are agreeing that they've seen this in their partner or their friend or stuff like that.
Mirroring. Boy, we got mirrors in this story, don't we? Mirroring is an interesting phenomenon with an ever-growing oral history. When you search for copycats or narcissists or identity theft, there are so many anecdotes from victims who were thrown for a loop by close encounters of the narcissistic kind.
Identity theft.
The narcissist will steal your identity and become a twisted version of who you are,
while smearing them the whole time to everybody else.
They probably disrespect you a whole lot behind your back. But then again, they're copying you, doing the things that you do, dressing how you dress, trying to talk how you talk. They can't give you credit. They can't, oh yeah, man, like what you do there, it's good.
She can't have the world knowing that she became this person, so she has to bury them.
They can't give you that credit. They're not going to let you know. They're just mad at you for no reason.
A lot of narcissists and toxic people, like myself, we have identity issues. It's like we are facing an ongoing identity crisis.
Here's Jenna Marbles. Oh, this makes me look much prettier than I actually am. Oh, I like this.
I went through my process of remaking myself from the person that I thought was disgusting and inferior.
I hate my teeth, but this makes my teeth look really nice. Can I just have this face? I just want her face.
I wanted it. I wanted to be like them, but I didn't want to be them. How my mind works. I think I can be a better version of them.
Damn. Jenna's eyes are pretty, and now they're my eyes.
I was like, damn, I like that about this person. So I would get around that person, study them, and take on their personality characteristic.
Like how my voice was, I would intentionally do it for a while, and eventually it would just become second nature. And I would basically train myself over periods of time.
Now, after that, listen to this clip of Sniperwolf lamenting how no one likes her laugh, and talking about how someone else would study the cute laugh of a famous person, and then rehearse it over and over until they nailed it.
We get it. Her laugh is cute. We all want a cute laugh. But we can't always have a cute laugh. So go and steal a cute laugh. Why doesn't it work for me? Does this take a long time? I wonder, do they like play her laugh over and over and over again and just practice it in front of a mirror?
Oh, how interesting. She already understands all this, huh?
Damn it, I'll never have a cute laugh.
Now, as an outgrowth of envy, here's how it makes sense.
People will always just come at me and be like, hey, you copied this, oh, you copied that.
The copying comes from the narcissistic feeling of entitlement.
Because I want to do it too.
They feel entitled to the admiration that someone else is getting.
There will be times where I watch a really cool video from somebody and I really like the challenge, and then I will copy their challenge.
They want to take that good reputation and apply it to themselves, even if it's unwarranted, even though it doesn't make sense.
I'm just an accumulation of all the personality characteristics and traits that I've admired in other people.
I'm not entirely sure that any of my personality traits are earnestly unique to me.
I actually somehow feel bad for this guy. Like, he understands what he's admitting to.
Because his personality is constructed, and that sucks.
The narcissist constructs his sense of self, the false self.
Yeah, I'm a construct, whatever. I created myself.
Is the totality of the reflections of other people.
What are you doing? Why are you reflecting so much? What is this?
Imagine if every time you showed a little glimpse of your real personality, you opened up to someone, you got beaten down and told that you basically are like an evil, psychopathic, shitty person.
She is petrified that the world will have to know who she actually is.
She's trying to train herself in how can I behave where people aren't going to yell at me.
So what did she do? She became someone she likes. She became someone who she finds attractive, funny, and talented.
People seem to like her and say she's a nice person. Let me just absorb that personality and wear it like a skin suit for myself. You would resent the person who's being this authentically because you can't really relate to it. You're thinking like, why would anyone be this nice?
Yeah. Why does she not even have to try to exude this personality, whereas I have to fake it all the time? just so people will like me and continue to watch my stuff.
When confronted by overwhelming evidence of her guilt, of her hypocrisy at the very least, what Sniperwolf didn't say was, okay, you got me, or, all right, listen, I don't mean to send so much hate towards Azzy. Guys, don't attack her anymore. Do not harass Azzy for me.
They will hurt others, exploit others, steal from others, and they don't have any remorse. They don't feel bad about it later.
Sniperwolf's response to this video and to seeing all of the hate that she'd sent towards Azzy was not to apologize or tell her fans not to go attack Azzy. She didn't admit that she copied her sometimes, nothing like that.
Sniperwolf responded. Oh, trust Sniperwolf to always respond.
So Sniper tries to come back. This was the most pathetic comeback of all comebacks.
I have a backup of videos and screenshots before she changed the thumbnails to make it look like I copied her.
I have proof she copied my thumbnails, SEO, the way I speak, the jokes I make.
The way you're trying to manipulate this is fraud! This is fraud! I haven't had any, I haven't had any caffeine. I'm just losing my mind.
And then it keeps going. It's like, I have screenshots. So if you upload the same video as me minutes after I upload on multiple occasions.
She's got the receipts, sis.
So she's like, oh, I got you, dead to rights. I caught you, right?
And those signatures and screenshots and receipts, sis, are this. Showing AzzyLand's video at the top with 9.4 Wegarvins. That is a lot of Wegarvins.
A community note then came out of nowhere with a big steamin' revelation that said,
"This doesn't prove anything."
Videos cited for evidence only have similar titles and don't contain the same thumbnail or clips.
Showcasing that this isn't exactly the slam dunk she thinks it is. It doesn't even use the same clips, only the title is the same. And there's other examples of similar titles being shared between them.
This is so embarrassing for her, and she gets dunked on in the comments here, and I'll show you that too.
This was the laziest comeback I have ever seen, dude.
The comments cooked her. The comments, everyone is replying with all kinds of screenshots of her just blatantly doing it.
I think it's safe to say that NerdCity and Azzy's countless receipts outweigh your weird receipts that are for some reason in Dutch, Leah?
All these Wegarvins were stolen.
His video is so in-depth, there's no holes in it.
And based on everything in the NerdCity video, as well as a couple of other things that have been revealed, it really does seem like Sniperwolf directly tried to copy from Azzyland.
Sniperwolf just quadrupled, 10x'd down on this and said, no, Azzy has been copying from me.
Straight up hypocrite. Like, what do you want?
Now, they exposed this in the video that this is what she does, and she locked it. It's locked. She private. And this is what happened. This is how you know you winning.
Azzy had uploaded a few minutes after Sniperwolf, and that, in Sniperwolf's mind, was proof that Azzy had copied the video from her, which makes no sense. Now, the reason that that's terrible proof that Azzy was copying from Sniperwolf is that you can't make an entire YouTube video in a few minutes. So there's no way she could have copied the theme of the video from her and uploaded instantly like that. And it just doesn't make any sense.
Not only a liar, but now you look dumb as hell.
Thankfully, the public could figure that out.
Leah completely deflects the fact that she's stealing someone else's voice and tries to play it off like others are actually the ones copying her.
She's been copying the way I talk for years. She's trying to convince people she's me. Sniperwolf is a crazy monster.
The narcissist will try to convince the victim that they are the actual abuser because of their reaction.
They make it seem like you are victimizing them.
That people have been doing this to me.
Stop it! The only thing worse than a liar is a liar that's also a hypocrite.
If you are dealing with a narcissist and you become the target of their projection, they will try to convince you that you're at fault for something that they're doing, or that you have some list of shortcomings to your personality that are much more relevant to them.
They are accusing you of the very thing that they do. It is profoundly disorienting when it gets aimed at you and it's a family member.
Correct.
Or it's a spouse.
Projection happens with every single narcissist out there. It's one of the things that's a universal.
Narcissism and projection go hand in hand.
When a narcissist has a thought that contradicts their false self, they protect themselves immediately by directing it onto someone else.
The narcissist is desperately fighting to restructure what is happening
to fit a pre-existing fantasy-based narrative of how incredibly amazing they are.
If they fail at some task, if they are facing a public humiliation, their ego rejects the shame right away. They drop it onto somebody else.
If you work with a narcissist, everything that goes wrong is your fault and everything that goes right is their doing.
I was carrying my team and I was just yelling at them the whole time, cussing at everybody, and at the end of the tournament I was so mad because my team would not listen to me and I got extremely pissed because we lost because of them.
They blame you for everything. They can't apologize for anything. There is no accountability or responsibility whatsoever on their part.
Sniperwolf is the queen of deflecting blame and avoiding responsibility.
There's a pattern. You see, she accuses people of doing things that she does to cover up her indiscretions.
Something that Sniperwolf actively, comes at other girls for doing and calling them fake and calling them out for photoshopping when she in fact does it herself.
And she's of course now trying to gaslight people into making herself the victim.
She essentially just threw down the reverse Uno card and shifted all the blame back to him.
Well, this guy's been harassing me. What you did is harassment.
It's so sad when people have to constantly create drama to pay their bills. Bitch! You are the person that's creating drama. I can't, dude. I can't.
Sniperwolf is just so clearly projecting. I mean, she's talking about the very thing she's been doing.
Yeah, she also accused me of faking my gameplay, and I'm like...
That is called projection. And yeah, there's some gaslighting in there.
It's very obvious I don't fake my gameplay. My gameplay is dog shit. Like, if I was gonna fake my gameplay, I would pick good gameplay to fake.
Take a moment. Think about it and say, I know this is absolutely untrue about me, but it's interesting that that person is making that accusation.
Even back in 2019, people didn't actually believe Sniperwolf was a real gamer.
Projection is a tell because when somebody accuses you of something that's very untrue, odds are it's because they're experiencing it or they're doing it.
The concept behind the Sniperwolf YouTube channel was that Young would play video games such as Call of Duty and or Metal Gear Rising, Revengeance, and record his gameplay.
You've been exposed!
Young would then prepare scripts for each recording for Shalesh to read on camera while acting as though she was playing the recorded video footage. So he's saying it was all fake.
Fake! Remember that the narcissist is projecting that's something that's very uncomfortable about themselves or something that they're feeling onto you.
I noticed that she does this thing where it's like projecting, where there's something that she is guilty of and she will project it.
Hey guys, what's up? Today I'm bringing you one of my most epic ghost gameplays yet. And I get 113 kills and a chem strike, and yes, this is solo by the way.
She wasn't actually playing the game. He was doing the game playing, she was just providing the commentary.
Said lawsuit basically all but confirmed that the gaming content that she used to make was completely fake.
She is constantly pointing out other fake channels. She is coping, projecting. Oh my, she's been doing it since her earliest videos.
He must ignore or deny certain thoughts. It's not me.
It's basically like psychological vomit. It doesn't feel good, like when you eat some bad fish and it needs to get out of you, you throw it up and then you feel better.
Rewinding back to the start of the video, that's what the little comments meant. Maybe the red dress, the mirror that didn't belong in her house.
Not really going well.
The attack on Fortnite. Maybe it's all starting to make a little more sense. I suppose.
I was afraid to talk about this before, but now I feel better.
Things that people have seen a million times.
Think of a million examples.
Yes. Puzzled over, this contradiction between the clear insecurity of a narcissist. Underneath this is someone who is insecure.
Oh.
The longer you hear them talk, the more you realize they're compensating for something.
Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain.
But the contradiction then is everything that they're saying and doing. I think that internally they have this world that's like this, and then there's this outer image, this persona that is completely the opposite. And how do they have the confidence to do that when they're insecure? It's a paradox. The more you learn about narcissism, the more you understand how that's possible and what's really happening. You might be less impressed by their grandiosity, maybe more sympathetic towards their vulnerability, and just maybe some admiration, some misplaced admiration is kind of reeled back in when you understand They're living in a world where they have such strong defenses that everything is getting routed off of them onto somebody else. They can never fail because their ego will not allow them to. So it's a fascinating thing that explains like so much. Like, what do we find interesting about celebrities? It's usually that they don't care. It's usually that they have some air of a lack of concern. So you see this behavior of like, wow, this person really doesn't give a fuck. I wish I didn't give a fuck. What you might be admiring is a defense mechanism, you know?
Yeah. You know, I know that logically, but when you interact with an actual narcissist in person, it's pretty difficult.
And I think one of the dangers of psychology is we can explain things.
A flat.
But we sometimes think, well, if you can explain it, then it's okay.
Exactly. That's it. It's that fucking simple.
We have to be able to hold in consciousness those two things. This is why they did it, and it is absolutely unacceptable.
Their behavior is what their behavior is.
Regardless of their backstory. We could explain it. Again, the minutia of it. It's not acceptable. Does that make sense? Just because we can explain something doesn't make it acceptable.
I just can't. I don't care if you secretly have low self-esteem and this is all a defense mechanism or armor type of thing, you know?
Pause. You gotta be kidding. The Wizard of Oz. Could you use a more worn-out metaphor? You humbug! I said malignant narcissist this whole time. I was only pretending not to understand the comments. On the next episode of Nerdline, Psychopathy!
I knew he was a psychopath.
That's some psychopath shit.
This is maniacal psychopath.
That is some next level psychopath action.
Bro, that's some level 1 psychopath behavior.
It is! We joke! We use that word too loosely on the internet. I think Sniperwolf is mentally unwell.
She lies.
She steals.
She doxes.
She threatens.
She bullies.
She cheats.
She skinwalks as popular women. And she farts on their small dogs.
I mean, holy fuck. This is the person YouTube really love to put up.
Aren't y'all glad I grew up to be a YouTuber and not a psychopath?
You are in the presence of an alligator. Keep your distance.
So, what's it like to be YouTube's dream come true? We're going in.
God, there's actually a person in there? Oh, hell no!
Irradiate bad behavior with a malignant Narc Nuke.
Just like we've always thanked the people who supported us on Patreon at the producer tier, I want to thank the people who've minted skulls in Season 2 and who've come by the Discord and who I've gotten to know. And these people are literally the producers of the video that you just saw and the upcoming videos. I'll be more than happy to add more names and more avatars to these credits next time, and to hopefully get to know more of you and more like-minded people in the server. If you want to support us by minting a skull, go to deadavatars.com, connect a wallet, and then hit the big red button.
The beautiful shiny button!
The button, at least, is meant to look irresistible. Like the Ren and Stimpy button in Space Madness is what I was thinking.
Can he withstand the temptation to push the button that even now beckons him ever closer?
I have nothing to lose. Why not?
If you haven't been through a process like this, our best researcher, Ryan, has a little how-to post, that'll walk you through the basics. There are 175 skulls left to mint in Season 2, and buying one of those supports us directly. You've never heard me say, and I don't think you'll ever hear me say, that owning one of our skulls is going to make you rich. In fact, one of our principles so far has been to be the only asset of its kind that isn't saying things like that. If there are others, please let me know. But for the most part, I have been disappointed in seeing the other earliest demonstrations of technology like this. What I can tell you, though, with no reservation, is that if you are a fan of the channel, you'll like what comes with owning a skull. In exactly the same way that we didn't want to make t-shirts that you didn't get any use out of, I also don't want these skulls to be something that you don't get any use out of either. A few days ago, I asked the Discord what's their favorite part of being in the server. For me, what I've had the most fun doing is after we come out with a video, probably tonight even, I'm going to play back this video with frequent pauses. Sometimes it takes like 4 hours to get through a 45-minute video if we're lucky. And, I'll talk about things that are still fresh in my mind about the production of the video. We've done the same thing not only for our content and for episodes of podcasts that I've been on, but also we've watched content with other YouTubers.
Who are you going to kill? That was and is my biggest fear. Great job, man. Thank you so much.
One of the criticisms of people who have used technology like this, and there are numerous criticisms, obviously, some of them fair, some of them urban legend, really, myth. But one of the big criticisms is that they rushed into it with, poorly concepted out projects and with art that they didn't spend very much time on. Now, of course, I was trying to buck that trend, and I did it exactly the opposite. I spent more time than I should have thinking this through, thinking through the details of it, and also agonizing over the editing and the quality control to try to make this as interesting and as complex as I could. Something that would unfold for many years to come and that I could build on top of forever. We set out to do something that we would be proud of forever. If you've watched this far and you're at least considering buying a shirt, thank you very much. Lots more to come. Talk to you guys soon.
You can